Welcome to Breakout by CREDX Club, where we talk to boldest founders, risk takers, and dreamers who bet on themselves to build something the world have never seen before. I'm Darshil Khunt, your host. Today we are going raw, real, and unfiltered with someone who have built a venture-backed SaaS startup from scratch, scaled across 33 countries, got on Forbes 30 under 30, and still have to shut it all down. I'm talking about Aditi Sinha, co-founder of Locale.ai, a founder who doesn't just celebrate success, but also her own scars. Let's break out. Aditi, welcome to the show. I know it isn't going to be a sugar coated conversation. This is about the good, bad, and brutally honest reality of startup life. Thank you for being here to share your journey. Welcome to
Yeah,
Breakout.
thank you so much for inviting me. Great to be here.
Aditi, you are known for making unconventional choices early in your career. Let's start at the beginning when you forego a dual degree in BITS Pilani, which many would consider a very risky move. What drove that decision, and how did your family and friends react to that?
Wow. So, yeah, I didn't even know where you got that information from. Actually, prepared for ITJ in my 11th and 12th grade. And then, I didn't get a very good rank in J, but I got into BITS. And, with all the possible options I had in front of me, I decided to go with economics because I had, a little bit of knowledge about eco. So I wanted to go and get in more deeper into it. So in BITS, you have to choose another engineering branch along with one of these degrees, right? So it really depends on what your CGPA is, but also your interest. So what I thought to myself is I'm going to try out and study all the branches in my first year and see which one of these actually interests me, right? Now, when it came time to choosing a branch, I actually did not, like any of the branches that they were offering, right? So instead of, just taking a degree for the sake of it, which a lot of people, along with my seniors and my family, advised me to, they, said, there's no harm, just take it, you'll only get benefits, you'll be able to sit in placements, but somehow that didn't make sense to me because I thought I had to basically sit and study this degree for the next 4 years of my life, and I just don't want to do anything for the sake of it. Like, I'm not that kind of a person. So I think having like real self awareness in that moment really helped, and I just decided to do it. And I think it was one of the best decisions of my life because in college, unlike a lot of my friends who were always running for labs, and they had very heavy courses that they had to complete, my degree was very very light, which basically meant I had a lot of time on my hands to explore, to do things that interested me. So I remember taking up a lot of internships in college and taking up a lot of projects remotely, and just striking off things that I didn't like or going deeper into things that I like to really figure out what it is that I wanted to.
That's great. Like, it's not always to go with the flow, but to take the stand for yourself that, oh, this is not something I really wanted, or this is not something I'm really interested of. And that's how it makes decision making a key part in the entrepreneurship life as well. Just not like someone one day comes up show up that I want to be an entrepreneur, but it's the life decision you take in your start from your career or from the childhood. It does make you build as an entrepreneur. And I read that you got into the final rounds with BCG and McKinsey, but didn't make it. That rejection might have crushed someone who might have applied for such similar role. How did that
Right.
shape you, and you know what, I'm going to build something instead, like rather than just going for an like a job?
Yeah, again, that time when the McKinsey and BCG interviews, I was not able to crack. I think I was really devastated, to be honest. But, now looking back again, this was one of the best things that could ever happen to me, right? Because only when I didn't go ahead with that, I was able to sort of go ahead with another startup that I had applied in. And I just got an internship offer in my final year of college. So, I only had these two options, by the way, in front of me. Either I'll go ahead with McKinsey or BCG, or I'll take the startup. I didn't want to go and sit for all the companies that were coming out of placements because, again, I didn't just do something for the sake of it, right? And now, when I see my friends in consulting jobs and climbing that ladder in those companies, I just think to myself, that was not even me. Like, why was I even doing it? And I think back then I was also influenced by a lot of what my peers were doing, what my seniors told me to do, right? And they were not wrong. They were just trying to guide me in the way that they thought was the best thing to do, right? But yeah, I'm just so glad that it didn't work out because I'm not made for consulting. right? And because of that, like I said, I went and interned in the startup, which was not very well known back then. And yeah, and because of joining that startup, I was able to ultimately start Locale. So you just never know how things just play out in life, right? You just have to be open and just keep doing what you think is something that you like. And I think somehow opportunities just open up at the right time for you. So that's one of my learnings from my life.
That's really interesting that your perspective do play a role, because if you try to follow a same path, yeah, it's a very perfect path for someone who is planned in a way. As seen, I also never chosen any perfect route. I don't know what the perfect route is. I'm very open to whatever comes in any career or industry. I love to explore on my own, and how I
Right.
can make the build bring impact and value to that specific industry or the problem that I can solve. And at the same time, it's like being open is like you never know in 5 years where it will take you as well. So it's been curious as well, being about in the future. And how did your time at Social Corps handling real data for the UN and Gates Foundation, noticing the operational inefficiencies, sparked the initial seed for local.in?
A lot of it, actually, that's where we came up with this idea of Locale. So I met my co-founder there, actually, and we used to work on a lot of projects together. And we saw that when we were doing work on all of these projects on our own, we were working with a lot of location based data, right? And we saw that there was not a proper product in the market that could crunch this data, analyze this data, visualize this data. So that's where the seed of the idea came up. Okay, is there a product that can be made to just make sense of this data better? And for a long time we actually thought someone else is going to do it. But when when our workflows used to get hampered and we used to hate working on the tools that were there in the market, ultimately we just asked ourselves, hey, let's just try to do this. But given that I was so early on in my career, I didn't have a lot of personal runway, right? So I just thought I'll give myself 6 months of time and move from Delhi, where I was at that time, to Bangalore, which is what I thought the place to be in. And yeah, just go ahead and do this. My plan was very simple, though. I was convinced that this is not going to work out. So I'd probably go and get a job after 6 months. But somehow, those 6 months stretched and became 5.5 years. In those 5.5 years, we saw so many things, ups and downs, 3 waves of COVID, market recession, so many highs as well. Yeah, and yeah, the Locale journey was very, very crazy.
It's always like that. You commit yourself to the 6 month, and you never know that you go with the
Yeah.
flow. That and you know that a specific point it will work out. You try
Hmm.
to a point where you know that okay, let's give it a try. Let's pivot it. Let's do something. Let's change it, and let's bring value to something you really want to build and make an impact, right? And you said you and Rishabh Jain left your job and moved to Bangalore in 2019 with a vision, right? Paint us a picture that what was it look like in the early days when you just started out.
Yeah, for sure. Very, very humble beginnings, in a way that initially, our apartment was the office. So we hired our first set 2, 3 people, and they used to come to our apartment and work out of there, right? And I remember, like I had so many snacks, already kept in the kitchen, so that, it feels like this is some semblance of an office where, you can go and have a pantry and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, we did start from there, and slowly, slowly, again, when you're doing something bold, courageous, people in the community somehow come and help you out, right? So through one of my seniors in college, we got a space in a really fancy workplace, right? Which is like a workplace for a lot of startups. And we didn't even have to pay over there. So again, it was such a big kind deed that helped us so much. I don't think that the person even realizes how big of a thing he did for us. But yeah, the first few days of the first few months and the years were very, very humble, crazy, but also a lot of energy, because it just felt like we were these two young kids who were trying to solve this problem. And so many people used to tell us that we are crazy, we're out of our minds. Even the pre-seed ecosystem back then was not this mature. So we didn't even know who to raise money from, right? They were either angels or they were VCs.
Yes.
So we kept hearing a lot of rejections everywhere, all over the place. But I don't know, somehow that just never deterred us. And like I said, right, there were so many times when we were about to just, shut down. We didn't even know how we would make payroll, but something or the other would work out, right? And yeah, like someone would help us out in some way with an intro, or with angel networks, and it just kept working out. So I think, yeah, you just need to show up and somehow things will work out.
Definitely, that's what you have exactly said. That show up and say out loud what you need the help for. In
Yeah.
some way, someone will hand out in a way which might seems minor to them, but for you it will be like a big difference. Like as you said, for the space that has been provided. So it's something that always you have to show up, speak out loud that this is what I need the help for, or this is what I need, and actually people do come forward and help with an initiative, with with the nature they have. But that really work out in a way with entrepreneurs, that so come forward and talk loudly. And your position Local.ai as Google Analytics for location data.
Mhm.
Break down that for the audience, that what actually it means in the practical terms.
Yeah, sure. So the idea with Locale was, if you think about any team, especially in, let's say, delivery companies, mobility companies, hyperlocal companies, all of the teams had very specialized software that they would use, right, for their workflows. But the operations teams in those companies who were actually managing, let's say, your vehicles on the ground or your delivery fleet on the ground, they were the ones who were still using Excel sheets or some internally, built product. So we were targeting them through Locale. And the idea was, just like, you have a website where, tools like Mixpanel and Google Analytics help you understand how your website is performing. With Locale, can we help you understand how your ground operations is performing, right, in different areas? So, with Locale, they could understand in different areas, how's their demand, how's their supply, where are their drivers idle, where should they place their bikes, so those kind of insights.
And the platform has the four key features like automatic incident creation, dynamic notification, multi-level escalation, and auto closure. Can you walk through a real example how it worked for a client, someone who have used it?
Yeah, so these features actually were the features of the next product that we built. So I'll explain that journey and maybe then explain the features. So with this product, what we realized ultimately, we scaled to a very decent revenue. But after that, we were not really growing that fast. And then, one of the modules in the product was alerting. And that was a hit with all these operation folks. The reason this product was not growing because the market size seemed to be much smaller than we had initially assumed. So when we basically moved from this product to this product, we took this alerting module and built an entire product around it. Right. And the idea of the second product was to help companies become proactive about their operations issues. So today what happens is the operations people would get to know about issues like, delays or inventory not being there in the stock, stuff like that, much, much later than they should have, right? A lot of times they get to know through complaints from the customers. So the idea was, from their data, can we read it and then proactively inform the right person so that they could understand what's happening, solve it, and if it cannot be solved by that person, it would get escalated up the hierarchy chain, right? So which is why these features come in. So maybe we can take a real example. So let's say if you're a logistics company, right? Now in the logistics delivery network, you have all of these checkpoints, right? And each of these checkpoints have an SLA or a TAT that you're supposed to adhere to, right? So for
Yes.
example, from the warehouse to the last mile, it should take, let's say, X minutes. Now we can basically configure these rules in the Locale system where we say that, okay, by this time, if this order it has not reached this location, make sure that it goes, the first alert that it could go to would be the very lower level guy in the chain. Now let's say if that person is not able to solve it, then it goes to the regional manager, then the operational manager. And you can basically see how people are sort of reacting on that issue, solving on that issue, and finally the issue gets resolved. Ultimately, all of this helps you understand how efficient your operations team is, how many issues are coming up, how many are resolved in time, how many are escalated, and so on.
Definitely, that's really helped the operation team to improve their efficiency and reduce the pain points and the drawbacks they have there in their own operation systems. And
Right.
there has been a client like Apollo 24/7. They have reduced their turnaround time by
Mm-hmm.
23%. Wakefit was also using it for their
Yes.
zero inventory stocks, and ShareChat managed their 160 million users. So these are the
Mm-hmm.
very impressive result. Which early wins gave you the most confident that you were building something really big, and that's really impacted the companies.
100%. I think all of those early results were really, really impressive. You could definitely say that, because of Locale, these issues have reduced. It was very easy to measure that. I think the product was really successful in retention and creating business impact. Where the problem actually occurred was that, in the acquisition and the GTM front, where we realized that we're not able to scale sustainably. What I mean by that is, we got the first set of customers through a lot of hustle, founder networks, all of that. But, ultimately we wanted to sell this product bottoms up, where let's say an operations person or a product manager could just come in, set up Locale and start using, right? But what we realized is that, this was a multi-stakeholder problem. What that means is the pain point was being felt by the ops person, but the decision-making power was, let's say, lied with the CXO in the company.
Yes.
This turned out to be, a lot of, going to a lot of stakeholders, and the sales cycle was becoming very long. And people were not willing to pay as much to justify the sales cycle. So ultimately, what we realize is that we cannot scale, Locale sustainably through this. And this was true in both markets, India and US. So that's why, again, we had to go back to the drawing board and think, okay, what do we do next?
Sometimes even if we planned out the way we want and we try out our best way, but these are the things once you apply to it in practical world, that you know that okay, the product is actually good and everything is working out for the operation teams, but the decision makers are different, or they have the power to use it, or it does take a longer time for them as well.
Right.
So being a first time founders, you have raised funding from Better Capital and other venture capital as well.
Mhm.
What was the biggest misconception about fundraising going on?
I think biggest misconception I would say is that fundraising is hard. It is not hard, I would say. It's not understanding, what are the aspects in a business that VCs actually look for and care about, right? And those are the aspects in your business that you really have to get sorted before you go out and fundraise. For example, what VCs really care about is for the fact that you're solving a real problem, right? That a lot of customers, have, and they're willing to pay for it. What VCs care about is you going after a large market. What VCs care about is, like the founder quality and whether they believe in you and your founders to execute and build this into a large business. Right now, when you as a founder go and fundraise, what you have to do is give that conviction to VCs that, hey, all of these parameters for me are sorted. For example, for the founder thing, give them, demonstrate them on how you can be a really good leader. Are there examples from your past on where you have, shown really good leadership or resilience or perseverance? For your market, show them how your market is big. Even if the initial niche that you're targeting is small, can it really expand into a large market later on? And of course, there are a lot of ways to prove whether this is a real problem or not. If your customers are using the product, if they're coming back on it, spending time on it, if they're paying it. So when you get into that milestone, that's when I think VCs would prefer to give you money.
Definitely. These are the points that people also miss, that they think that we want to fund us, or as being a first time founder, they think that way as well. But this is the right approach for them, that they also need to make money and give the funds to their LPs as well. And
Yes. Yes.
that's what they think in the founder quality, that okay, they can try it, why this is a perfect team to solve this problem, specific problem, what they understand better than the other founders, or what
Mhm.
they have the specific insight or experience or pain points they can really solve, and this is a team they can really do it. So
Yeah.
that is something that the founders, first time founders, can learn to approach the venture capital for their first fundraise. And you share some very tactical advice about personalized outreach email and framing meetings as conversation rather than pitches. What's the
Mhm.
story behind learning that lesson?
I don't even remember when I gave that advice. No, but that makes sense, right? When you're reaching out to investors, let's say you don't know anyone in the network. When we started Locale. So we had to reach out to everyone cold. But imagine, right, if you're a VC, you're getting these emails, probably like 50 emails a day. Right
True.
now, if you have to get into a VC's inbox, how do you really stand out, and what do you do to capture their attention, right? So that is probably one of the methods that I had employed back then. But maybe today I would think of it in a different way, right? Maybe I would think, because it's so easy to build decks or landing pages or infographics, I would probably use AI and create a personalized, let's say, a one pager or an infographic for every VC I'm reaching out to. Again, I'll have to see if it, I can do it very quickly. But if it just takes me 5 minutes or 10 minutes, why not? Ultimately, the goal is to just make sure that you stand out, and these VCs actually give you mind space that you need in order to evaluate whether your company is worth, getting funded or not.
And do you think that reaching out to the VC, it's directly to the point, or rather than make up a conversation, build like a little bit of relationship, that what you're building, giving them the updates and everything that help you and make the better
Yeah.
chances to fundraise?
Yeah, definitely. You can do that, right? Like, let's say if there's a specific VC. See, you can't do this with all the VCs in the ecosystem. But if there are specific VCs that you really admire, that you think you really want to get funded from, might make sense to just build like an email list, and every month or every quarter, just send a quick update on the business. Right. So that when you're out there and when you're fundraising, they already have enough context on who you are and what your business is. I think a side note to this is to not do that if your business is not figured out yet, because sometimes, because you're not talking to the VC and you're just sending emails, you don't know what context will the VC really take the email in, right? So you need to
Yes.
make sure that they're taking it in the right spirit, for example. So in case you have landed an idea that you think, is making a lot of progress, maybe then that is when I would do that. I would reach out to a bunch of these people and build relationships, keep them updated on the progress, and at the right time then go to them and hopefully being able to close my round.
And yes, as you exactly have said, that fundraising is draining as well, and
Mm-hmm.
but it comes with an immense learning potential. But
Yeah.
for founders who are listening this, who might be in the thick of it right now,
Mm-hmm.
what keep you resilient during the tough times when you just started out, you don't have any funds, no connection, no introduction, just starting out, and there will be a time where I need to raise fund, and that was the right time to start approaching the VC and approach them for the investments.
What kept me going was the fact that I just didn't want to take no for an answer. And I had done enough research and reading to know that, when you're out fundraising, most people say no, but you just need one person to say yes. Right. So what I wanted to do was find that one person. And I was so, confident that I will find that person. And I was okay to be a little patient and hear a lot of no's in order to get to that yes. So that is what kept me going. What kept me going was the fact that we really needed to do the fundraise, else we would not survive ultimately. So yeah, I mean, it was either that or we shut down. So yeah, it's just you just don't take no for an answer. I mean, even if one specific person says no, you just keep going on, right? There's so many VCs in the ecosystem.
And I also want to ask a specific question from this answer, that how many VC have you pitched, or angel networks have you pitched before raising the round? Like, how many no's you have heard before say that you got a yes?
It's been so long now. I mean, our last fundraise was in 2023. So it's been a while. I think our first fundraise, our pre-seed round, was the toughest because that time no one really knew us. We didn't have any connects in the ecosystem. I think we heard a no from all the VCs out there. And so we were actually not at the stage where we could raise a seed round, but we are going and pitching to all these VCs for a seed round. So I think that was the reason why we heard no's. And that's when we met, some angels and a pre-seed investor, and we made a pre-seed round out of it. But yeah, I think all the VC funds rejected us. I don't remember a number, but back then I'm sure I reached out to every one of them, and all of them rejected.
That's how you know that this is right thing to do, right way to approach, and then you keep building it and approach us again with the right part, and that's how you raised your pre-seed and seed funds as well. Let's talk about the hard part. Despite raising over 3 million plus and achieving a very strong client result, having a clear vision what you were looking to build, and eventually you shut down. And this is the part of entry that most of the people don't talk about enough, right? Can you walk us through that? What really happened, and when you decide that okay, this is the decision we have to take?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, we actually did 3 rounds. So there were like, 3 sets of investors we had to manage. So what happened? I told you, right? What happened with the last idea? We were not able to scale it in terms of unit economics. So then we went back and we thought, what do we really do now? We still had about 2 million left in the bank. So we basically decided to, build something in the sales domain, because we thought that sales is our strength. Sales is something that we had known for so many years. So, we'll build something for salespeople using AI. right? So after we started doing that, we actually had a good sense of what exactly is the problem we want to go after. We started validating it and building the product. What happened was, me and my co-founder, we started feeling a lot of burnout. We did go to some mentors for advice, and most of them said, just stick it out, it'll get better with time, and build some boundaries with work. For example, take weekends off and all of that. But for me, what I realized, it was not really getting better. In fact, it was getting worse. I remember I used to sit in meetings and my brain would just not work, right? And I never felt that way before. So when this started happening, I had to be honest with myself, and I asked myself, hey, like, this is not how I usually perform, because I've been through, two previous 0 to 1 ideas, and this is not, my performance is nowhere compared to how it was back then. My performance, my energy, and how I show up. And that was a very hard, I think that was one of the hardest things to do, was to just come clean with myself. But when I did that, I realized that, okay, that means, I really need to take a step back from this company. So both of us, we went to the investors and we told them, hey, this is where we are and this is how we're feeling, so we really want to return capital. So yeah, I mean, over a long period of time with a lot of discussions, we finally thought, that's the best way for us to move forward. And I really needed some time, space to heal, because that would have been very, very hard if I kept running the company. A CEO's job is very, very demanding, right? You have your team, you have your investors, you have your customers. So yeah, and I took some time off, really worked on healing myself, and definitely feel a lot more better. And then we realized that we had to return the capital and shut down the company.
That's actually been the hard part, and I love that you've been open to share about that, what you have really felt about closing the other company and make a decision. And I know, being an entrepreneur, you tried every 100% to give to keep the company alive, get it going,
Right.
pivot it, change idea, bring other people, do everything possible to make it work out. But there is a time that sometimes you have to take that decision that, okay, this is not going to work out, and you need to give time to yourself as well. Because if you work in a way, it need to be enjoying, even if you are working 7 days a week,
Yeah,
rather than
definitely.
working for 4 or 5 days and you feel burning out, not focusing on, as you said, you're in meeting, you get completely blank, right? So sometimes does give you uh, some signals that, okay, this is the time that I need to take some step back and then go on to somewhere else. So looking back, what would have you have done completely different in building local.ai? What were the early signs you might have missed for an first time entrepreneur?
I don't think I would have changed anything. Maybe the only thing I would have done to not, get to a place where I felt so burnt out was to have a life outside of work. Probably. This is something I realized much later, that, of course, company is a very, very big part of your life. At some point, it becomes your identity, but you need to have other areas of life that also give you energy, that give you joy, so that in times when your startup is not giving you joy and giving you energy, because it cannot be rosy all the time. You can take energy from different areas and channel it into that. I think that would be the only thing I would change. So probably work a lot on more on my health, both my mental health and my physical health. Have a lot more hobbies. These are the things I've now been taking care of after stepping back. But I would have figured a way to incorporate all of this while running the company.
That's good. Like, even when I started the company, like, it's only the company. There is no hobbies,
Yeah.
no other activities, nothing. Just you start working the time you woke up till the time you go to bed. You just keep working, try to figure out the things, and unless and until you figure out, you don't get a sense of like that. Oh, why it isn't working out? Why? I want to figure out as soon as possible. I want to make the things work. I want to grow fast and scale it. Right? That's something all the founders think when they're just starting out, and then it's really take a very bad toll on your health as well as like your physical and mentally. And that sometime you take day off and then you come back again, get a fresh start, and that gives you really very good energy, clear thinking sometimes as well, rather than just keep evolving from the thoughts that you're running 24/7 for your company. And you are currently involved with multiple ventures and advisory roles, right? What you're working on right now, and how the local.ai influence your current approach, or you're taking just a time off right now, really thinking that, okay, I want to take some time off, and then
Yeah.
there will be time I will decide, okay, I want to start something new or do something else?
Yeah, I'm actually not in any formal advisory roles. I do just, help out my founder friends if they need anything in their GTM, or if they want to brainstorm about a problem or help, get help in fundraising. But those are not any formal engagements for me. Right now, I'm taking time off. There are a lot of other areas of life, aspects of life that I feel like I ignored in the last 5.5 years. So I'm trying to sort of give more of my time, energy, bandwidth into those, more of my artistic side. For example, I write a lot of poetry. I perform in open mics. I'm learning ukulele. So it's like a combination of things I've been doing. What I want to do next is something, honestly, I don't know. I'm figuring out. I'm also not in a hurry to figure that out. I'm just taking some time off and going slow and seeing where life takes me again.
Yeah, it definitely, you will need some time off as you work from like past 6 years in the same
Yeah.
energy, same passion. And it's a time that you take some time off, give yourself time that this is what something you really want to do. And next time you will be build something from the way what you have experienced, you have learned through the journey, and you will be coming out better as a person, as a company, what you want to build, that want to make and really impact to bring it out to the whole world, right? And there is a saying that the future belongs to the product startups in India. Where do you see the biggest opportunity for Indian entrepreneurs that want to go in the global market?
So many. I think because of AI, all industries and areas are getting disrupted, right? So it really depends on what your goals are, what your interests are. In the B2B space, people say that, just figure out those boring workflows that are still running in the same old archaic way for the last 3-4 decades, and just, automate that with AI. So a lot of people are doing that, right? In areas in healthcare, law, manufacturing, all of that. For B2C, actually, it's much more interesting. In India specifically, we haven't seen a lot of AI apps getting adopted. So yeah, I mean, I'm also still figuring that out and researching, okay, what are the interesting areas. But if you think about it, right, like for everything that we do now, there will be an AI companion, right?
Yes.
Whether we want an AI companion for our finances, or whether we want one for our health, or whether we want one for, just art and creativity, right? Those are some interesting things and areas that I think will where definitely products will come and bloom.
And what one piece of ideas you want to give from your whole journey to the founder, from your education, your experience, your work experience, your founder
Mhm.
journey, your company and everything? One piece of advice.
I think it's the piece of advice that I follow myself. So that's why maybe I'm in a position to give it to others. I think you should really, really know who you are and what your strengths are. Most of the people I see around me want to be founders because they want to be rich, or they want a quick win or quick pathway to success. And while a lot of founders have had that, you're not guaranteed that journey, right? So the only way to really make sure that you enjoy is to really love what you do. And I know that's very cliche, but if money is what you love, then I would really suggest you to think whether this is the best way to become rich, because it's not, right, given the failure rates. Yeah, so really figure out what industry you're passionate about, or what problems you relate with the most, and then go after them, right? That is something I would recommend.
It's very true that you have to figure out the things first, and this is not something a rich quick scheme, right? That someone, I
Yeah.
will raise the fund fast, then I will build a company scale. And that's in the initial stage it's very lonely, depressed. You have to do everything on your own, figuring out the stuff. And it's always hard, like you are learning something you have never done before. You
Yeah.
have been figuring out from start end to end process. You are managing everything from fundraise, managing the teams, everything you're doing it yourself. And sometimes you think that, okay, once I raise the money and then I will start deploying the teams and it will be taken care of. And it doesn't seem that way. It doesn't work out that as well, right? So that is something that first time founders need to understand, that it's not a rich quick scheme, that they will raise the money and then they will start keep building the way they want. What is the biggest misconception you heard about being in a Forbes 30 under 30 entrepreneur?
Biggest misconception: that your family will take you more seriously. That doesn't happen.
And one book that significantly influenced or inspired your entrepreneur journey?
Don't make me choose one book. That's so hard. I don't know. I've read so many books at different points in my journey and they all really helped me. If you're starting up, maybe I'll recommend Hard Things About Hard Things because obviously everyone, it's like the Bible of the startup world. If you're somewhere in the middle where you're still figuring out, how you can grow, how you should scale, how you can go ahead, the Messy Middle is another, really, really golden book. But I've usually like read a lot of biographies. I think that also really helps me get perspective on how people really built their empires and companies.
And if you have a chance to meet with any of the entrepreneur or investor, living or dead, who it will be and why?
Probably Leonardo da Vinci. I know he was not like a tech entrepreneur, but I think he was definitely a genius, polyglot. I don't know how he was a genius at so many things at the same time. So I think I would really sit with him to understand how he really, like took insights and learnings from one field and applied into the other. Because that's something that really fascinates me, right? Because on one side I like to think of myself as an artist, on the other side I like to think of myself as an entrepreneur, so I'm really interested in how both of these fields really converge and talk to each other.
And one last question: best piece of advice you have received from an founder or an investor?
I don't know if this is the best. This is something I can think of right now. So this is something, a very old, one of our first angel investors told me. When I told you, there was a time when we were getting rejected every day. So obviously,
Yes.
sometimes it would get to you. You would become sad and I would feel like I don't want to do this. It's so painful. What he actually told me is that the default or the status quo of an entrepreneur is that, he gets up and he gets no, 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 no everywhere. Right. So if you're actually getting a yes, that means it's not the default, it's something special. So but if you're not getting up and getting no's, that means you're not out there doing things, right? You're not out there selling your product or selling your company or, trying to hire people. So if you're getting no, that means you should be happy that you're out there fighting in the battleground. This is of course until things start working out and you slowly start getting a lot more yeses. That would be the ultimate hope, but for the early days I think this is a good piece of advice.
And in the starting journey, the first test is like a very good way or a golden thing for you as well. Like someone
Mhm.
saying yes because you have every time you have heard only no's, right?
Yeah,
The first yes
it
is
just
always
makes
the
it
special
makes
thing.
it so much sweeter, the yes that you hear.
And you read it twice. This is something someone had really said yes.
Yeah.
Till now you always know answer will be the no, right? Thank you so much, Aditi, for bringing your heart, your scars, and your wisdom to break out. This conversation was not just about the company, but it was about the courage to bet on yourself, to feel with dignity, and to rise again. To everyone listening, if you're building something or even thinking about building something, this is your sign to start. Like, share, and subscribe. And remember, your breakout is closer than you think. I'm Darshil Khunt. See you next time. Keep building and keep breaking out.
Bye.